Story 1. My name is Michael Carter. I'm 32 years old, I'm a mechanic, and I live with my wife Emily in an old brick house that used to belong to my grandpa, way out in the countryside of New York State. We moved here in 2018 after he passed, away and left the property to me. It's a real isolated spot, surrounded by a massive forest that seems to go on forever. Our house is the last one on the road, so the woods basically swallow us up on two sides. There aren't many houses around, which I've always found peaceful, you know. I like the quiet of not having neighbors breathing down my neck. The house itself is old, but it's got history. It was built by my great-grandfather way back. The worn-out bricks give it a certain charm, but they also make it clear that time has taken its toll. Emily and I like it here, but what I'm about to tell you has been keeping me up at night for years now. It's something I don't even know how to explain properly, but I need to get it off my chest. It all started during a winter, I think late 2019, a few weeks before Christmas. I had woken up early to shovel the snow off the driveway, something I do every time there's a heavy snowfall. While I was pushing the shovel, I noticed some weird marks in the snow near the back porch. They looked like footprints, but they weren't neat, you know, like something clumsy, uneven, coming straight out of the woods right up to almost the back door of the house. I stood there staring at them for a few minutes, trying to make sense of it. There's no way they could have been Emily's, since she was still asleep, and I hadn't gone out to the back that day. The marks stopped about 6 feet from the porch and turned back into the woods, as if whoever made them just stood there watching. It made me a little uneasy, but I figured it could just be an animal or a lost neighbor. Still, something about that idea didn't sit right with me. I showed the marks to Emily when she woke up, but the snow had already started covering them again with the wind. She thought it was odd, but said it could have been a deer or something like that. I wasn't so sure because the footprints didn't look like an animal's. They had more of a human shape, just kind of distorted. I decided not to talk about it too much so I wouldn't worry her, but I kept my eyes peeled over the next few weeks. It didn't snow again for a few days, so there was no way to check if anything else showed up. During that time, everything seemed normal. I was working at the shop, we were getting groceries in town, same old routine, but I couldn't get those marks out of my head. It was like something was nagging at me deep down. Eventually, I decided to let it go, thinking it was just me being paranoid, but that didn't last long. During the next snowfall, around January 2020, the marks came back. This time I saw them as soon as I went out to grab firewood from the back shed. The same weird footprints coming out of the woods and heading right, up to the porch, stopping in the same spot as before. My stomach dropped when I saw them because now it didn't feel like a coincidence. I called Emily over to take a look, and she just stood there quietly staring. "This isn't normal, Mike," she said, and I agreed. I took some pictures with my phone, just in case I needed to show someone, but the quality wasn't great because of the dim winter light. There wasn't much we could do right then, so I just cleared the snow and went back inside. But the feeling that something was off wouldn't leave me. I kept catching myself looking out the back windows all the time, expecting to see something in the dark. Months went by, winter ended, and for a while there were no more footprints since the snow melted. I thought maybe it was just a seasonal thing, who knows. Life went on, with me fixing cars at the shop and Emily working from home. As a freelancer, we even did some small renovations on the house, painted the kitchen, fixed up the roof. But when winter 2020 rolled around, the marks showed up again. Every time it snowed, there they were, always on the same path from the woods to the porch. I started getting more annoyed than scared, because it felt like someone was messing with us. I asked the nearest neighbors, like old Tom, who lives about 500 yards away, but he said he hadn't seen anything strange. Nobody seemed to know a thing, which only made the feeling of being alone in this worse. It was during the winter of 2021 that something new happened, and it hit me in a way I can't even describe. I started waking up in the middle of the night, around 2 or 3 a.m., for no apparent reason. It wasn't a nightmare, it wasn't a noise, but I'd just open my eyes and be wide awake, on edge. One of those nights I heard a low sound like a murmur, coming from outside over by the woods. It wasn't the wind, because I've known the sound of the wind in this house since I was a kid. It was something more human, but distant, like someone talking real quietly. I got out of bed slowly so I wouldn't wake Emily and went to the back window. I didn't see anything, just darkness and the trees swaying a little, but the sound kept going for a few minutes. My heart was racing, but I didn't know what to do. The next morning, I told Emily what I'd heard, but she didn't hear anything that night. She said maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me, that I was too focused on the footprints. I tried to believe that, but deep down, I knew it wasn't my imagination. Those murmurs came back on other nights, always when I was awake by myself, never when Emily was up with me. It was like the sound knew I'd be the only one to hear it. I didn't want to admit it, but I started feeling like something or someone was watching me from the woods. I tried installing a security light out back, but the battery wouldn't last, even though it was brand new. Nothing seemed to work right when it came to this. I just wanted an explanation that made sense. Last winter in 2022, things got worse again. The footprints kept showing up, but now Emily noticed something that made me even more tense. She was cleaning the back porch and saw scratches on the wooden door down near the bottom, like something had tried to get in. They weren't animal marks like from a dog or a bear. They were straighter, almost deliberate. She showed me and I didn't know what to say. We checked old photos of the door we'd taken during the renovations, and those scratches weren't there before. My chest tightened at the thought of something getting that close to us. Emily was visibly worried, and for the first time she brought up maybe selling the house. I didn't want to because of the family history, but I started wondering if it was worth it. I tried talking to more people about it, like a guy in town who knows the area well. He laughed and said it was just the wind or some critter, that old houses like mine always have weird stories. But I knew it wasn't just that. The murmurs kept happening on winter nights, always low, almost inaudible. But there, I started keeping a flashlight and my old pocket knife by the bed just in case. Emily started locking all the doors and windows before bed, something we never used to do. We don't talk about it much during the day, but you can feel the tension in the air. Every snowfall that comes, I already know I'm going to find those marks. It's like a cycle that won't stop. I decided to set up a cheap security camera out back, one of those I bought online. I installed it at the start of this winter, in November 2023. The first snowfall came, and there were the footprints again. I rushed to check the footage, but the camera didn't catch anything, just darkness and some glitchy interference. I don't know if it was a malfunction or what, but I got frustrated. The murmurs came back that night too, and this time they seemed a little louder, like they were closer to the house. I stayed up until sunrise, just staring out the window, but I didn't see any movement. Emily didn't hear anything again, which leaves me even more confused. It feels like I'm the only one who hears it. I tried following the footprints once, right after seeing them fresh one morning. I put on my boots, a heavy jacket, and headed into the woods. I'm no tracker, but the marks were clear at first. But the deeper I got into the forest, the harder they were to follow, and after about 20 minutes they just disappeared, like whoever made them vanished. There were no tracks going back, nothing. I stood there in the middle of the trees, feeling like I shouldn't keep going. The silence of the woods felt heavy, and I turned back to the house faster than I'd like to admit. I didn't tell Emily about it, because I know it'd make her even more nervous. But since then I avoid going too far into the woods, even during the day. Something out there doesn't feel right. The scratches on the door started showing up more often, always after a snowfall. They're not deep, but they're fresh. You can tell by the color of the exposed wood. Emily now avoids even opening the back door, using only the front one for everything. I try to act calm so I don't make things worse, but I'm running out of ideas. I thought about calling the police, but what would I even say? That there are footprints and scratches, but no one's seen anything. They'd think I'm crazy. I tried talking to my uncle, who lived here with my grandpa for a few years, but he just said the woods have always been weird, without explaining more. That didn't help at all. It just made me more uneasy. What's going on here? I started researching the history of the land to see if there was anything that could explain this. My grandpa never mentioned anything strange, but he kept certain things to himself. I found some old records at the town library saying this area was used by Native Americans centuries ago, before it was settled. There weren't many details, just mentions of sacred places in the woods. I don't know if I believe in that stuff, but I keep wondering if it has something to do with what's happening. The murmurs I hear don't sound like anything I can understand, just a low, steady noise. I don't know if I'm imagining things or if there's really something there. But the idea of something ancient tied to the land won't leave my mind. Emily and I have started arguing more about moving away, but it's tough. My job at the shop is here, and the house has been in the family for generations. Selling wouldn't be easy, especially with the market the way it is. Plus, part of me wants to figure out what's going on, even if it scares me. But every winter, that comes, I feel like something is getting closer. The footprints seem to stop nearer to the porch each year, and the scratches are getting higher up on the door. I don't know what I'd do if I actually saw something or someone there. Just thinking about it makes me tense. We're taking it one day at a time, but I don't know how much longer I can handle this. The neighbors still think it's all in my head, that the isolation is getting to me. Old Tom even joked that I should stop watching horror documentaries. I tried to laugh, but I couldn't. Emily's also starting to doubt herself, saying maybe the scratches are from some animal we haven't seen. But I know what I hear at night, and I know what I see in the snow. It's not just my imagination, it can't be. I tried recording the murmurs with my phone, but the audio just picks up silence or some weird static. I've got no way to prove anything, and that frustrates me more than anything else. I feel like I'm stuck in a situation I can't control. Recently, on a day with heavy snowfall, the footprints showed up again, but this time there were extra marks, like fingers dragging in the snow beside them. I don't know what to make of it. It looked like something was leaning on the ground or crawling. I stared at it for a while, trying to figure it out, but all I felt was a weight in my chest. I didn't show this to Emily, she's already at her limit. I saved the photos on my phone, but I don't even know why, since no one believes us. The murmurs that night were clearer, almost like they were forming words, but I still couldn't make them out. I sat in the kitchen until morning with the light on, just waiting. Nothing happened, but the exhaustion is starting to get to me. I thought about hiring someone to watch the property, like a security guard or someone with tracking experience, but we don't have the money for that, and I'm not sure it'd make a difference. The woods are huge, impossible to cover completely. I also considered putting up fences or barbed wire along the tree line, but that'd be a massive expense, and I don't know if it'd stop whatever this is. Emily wants us to leave for a while, maybe spend the next winter at her parents' place a few hours away. I'm thinking about it, but abandoning the house feels wrong, like I'm running away. I don't know what the right decision is. Everything feels uncertain now. As I'm writing this, it's starting to snow again outside. I've already got that tightness in my chest, knowing that tomorrow morning I'll probably find those marks again. I don't know if I'll sleep tonight. I'm going to keep watch by the back window with my phone nearby in case I need to record something. Emily's in the bedroom, trying to rest, but I know she's worried too. The murmurs haven't started yet tonight, but the night's just getting started. I don't know what's out there, if it's a person, an animal, or something else. All I know is I don't feel safe in my own home anymore, and that's the worst part of all. I don't have an explanation for any of this, and maybe I never will. Part of me thinks it's something tied to the land, something my family didn't know about when they built this house. My grandpa never mentioned anything like this, but he kept secrets. I don't know if it's human or not, but the feeling of being watched won't go away. I'm writing this because I needed to get it out, because talking to someone helps clear my head. But deep down I know this doesn't solve the problem. The footprints will keep showing up, the sounds will come back, and I don't know how far this will go. I just hope we can figure out what to do before something worse happens. If anyone's gone through something like this, or has any idea what it could be, I'd like to know. I'm not one to believe in things I can't see, but I'm running out of options. Maybe it's just my head, the stress of living so isolated, but the scratches on the door aren't imaginary. The footprints aren't either. I'm trying to stay calm for Emily's sake, but there are nights I can't even close my eyes. Winter is just starting and I'm already dreading what's ahead. I don't know what's in the woods, but I feel like it's watching me. And I don't know what it wants. I'm not even sure I want to find out. Report 2. My name is Sarah Bennett. I'm 29 years old. I'm a graphic designer and I live in Virginia. In the fall of 2022, I decided to go on a solo hike along a section of the Appalachian Trail that I'm familiar with, just to clear my head after a really tough breakup. I needed some time away from everything, you know? I've always enjoyed hiking, and this trail isn't new to me. I've been on it plenty of times before. I planned to spend the weekend, Friday through Sunday, carrying just the essentials in my backpack. I left home feeling excited, drove to the starting point and parked my car in a safe spot near the entrance. The first day was great. With fresh air, trees covered in yellow and red leaves, everything felt perfect. I hiked for a good few hours, stopped to eat a sandwich I'd brought, and set up my camp a little off the main trail, like I always do. I wanted privacy, just me and nature. That night I slept well, exhausted from the hike, not thinking about anything except resting. On the second day, Saturday, I started hiking again early in the morning, soaking in the peace of the place. The day was beautiful. I took some photos with my phone for my social media and kept up a steady pace. But when night came, something woke me up. I jolted awake around midnight, hearing the sound of twigs snapping near my tent. It wasn't far off, sounded like just a few yards away. I stayed still, trying to listen more closely, but I didn't hear footsteps or voices, just those sharp cracks. I grabbed the flashlight I keep next to my sleeping bag and unzipped the tent a bit to peek outside. There was nothing, just darkness and the shadows of the trees. My heart was racing, but I figured it might be an animal, like a raccoon or something. I lay back down, but it took me a while to fall asleep again. That sound stuck in my head, a nagging unease I couldn't shake off. On Sunday morning, I got up feeling a bit tense, but I tried not to dwell on the noise from the night before. So I packed up to continue the hike, but when I went to grab something from my backpack, I noticed the zipper was open. I swear I zipped it shut before sleeping. I always do. I looked inside, and everything was kind of messed up, like someone had rifled through it. Nothing was missing, but things weren't where I'd left them. My water bottle was in a different pocket. The pack of cookies was turned upside down. I was confused, because there's no way I could have done that in my sleep. I scanned around the campsite, but I didn't see any footprints or signs of anyone. I tried to convince myself that maybe I'd opened it without realizing, but that didn't add up. Something was wrong and I knew it. I grabbed my backpack and kept hiking, but now I was on high alert. During the day as I walked, I started noticing some strange things. Every now and then, out of the corner of my eye, I'd see what looked like a shadow moving between the trees. It wasn't clear, just a dark shape that vanished the second I turned my head. The first time I thought it was just fatigue or the light playing tricks with the leaves, but it happened again and again, maybe 3 or 4 times. I'd stop, stare at the spot, but there was never anything there. I started getting nervous, walking faster, wanting to cover more ground before stopping again. I didn't want to camp that night, but I knew I wouldn't make it back to my car before dark. My stomach was churning, this feeling of being watched. I tried to focus on the trail, but my mind wouldn't stop spinning. When I stopped to set up my tent again late in the afternoon, I checked my backpack one more time. Again, the zipper was slightly open and things were rearranged. My notebook was in a different spot, and my flashlight wasn't where I'd left it. I just stared at it, trying to make sense of it. There's no way it could have been the wind, or an animal, because nothing was taken, just moved around. I felt a heaviness in my chest, a mix of confusion and fear. I sat on a log, trying to calm myself down, but my eyes kept scanning the woods around me. I didn't see or hear anything, but the feeling that something was nearby wouldn't leave me. I decided to keep my backpack inside the tent with me that night, just to be safe. I didn't know what was going on, but I wasn't taking any chances. That night, I couldn't sleep properly. I kept waking up at every little sound, thinking I'd hear twigs snapping again. I didn't hear anything as distinct as the night before, but the silence felt suffocating, almost wrong. I grabbed my phone to pass the time, scrolling through old photos, trying to distract myself. Then, out of nowhere, I noticed a new audio recording in my voice notes app. I didn't remember recording anything. I hit play and it was just this weird static noise like interference for about 30 seconds. But in the middle of it, I heard something that stopped me cold. It was a low, distorted whisper, and it sounded like it said my name, Sarah, in a voice I don't recognize. I froze, listening to it over and over, but there was no mistaking it. It wasn't my voice, and it wasn't anyone I know. I deleted the recording immediately. I didn't even want it on my phone. My heart was pounding, and for the first time, I felt like I needed to get out of there as fast as possible. I couldn't ignore what was happening anymore. It wasn't just exhaustion or my imagination. Something was seriously wrong on that trail. I decided I wasn't going to wait until the end of the next day like I'd planned. I'd wake up early and hike, as fast as I could, back to my car. I didn't want to spend another night in that place. I stayed awake the rest of the night with my flashlight on inside the tent, just waiting for dawn. Every sound from the woods seemed louder, even if it was just the wind. I didn't know what was messing with my stuff, or saying my name, but I knew I didn't want to stick around to find out. I woke up before sunrise, broke down my camp in record time, and started walking. My feet were aching, but I didn't stop, not even to eat properly. I just grabbed a granola bar from my backpack and kept going. I wanted to put as much distance as possible between me and that stretch of the trail. As I hiked, I still saw those shadows out of the corner of my eye, but I tried not to look, just focusing on the path ahead. I didn't hear any more weird noises, but the feeling of being followed wouldn't go away. I checked my backpack a few times, and the zipper was closed, but I didn't trust it anymore. My phone was in my pocket, not in my backpack, because I didn't want to risk more creepy recordings. All I wanted was to get to my car and go home. Each step felt heavier, like the air was getting thicker. But I knew I was close, just a few more hours. Finally, I reached the parking area where I'd left my car around 10 a.m. I've never been so relieved to see my old Honda. I got in, locked the doors, and just took a deep breath, trying to calm down. I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see something behind me, but there was nothing, just the empty trail. I drove straight home, not stopping even to grab a coffee. When I got there, I told my brother what happened, but he thought I was overreacting, that it was just the stress of the breakup getting to me. I didn't argue because deep down I don't even know what to believe. I just know I didn't feel safe those last few days. I was so tired that I slept the rest of the day, but even at home I kept thinking about the trail. I didn't know if it was paranoia or if there really was something out there. After that, I checked my phone again, just to make sure there weren't any more strange recordings. There was nothing new, but I still felt uneasy just holding the device. I decided not to listen to music or podcasts for a few days. I don't know, it just felt better that way. I thought about deleting the photos I took on the trail, but I left them there like a reminder. My brother suggested I talk to a park ranger about what happened, but what would I even say? That I heard my name in a recording I didn't make. That someone messed with my stuff without leaving a trace. I had no proof, just my word. In the end, I just kept it to myself, trying to move on. But the truth is, I can't forget. In the days that followed, I stayed home, working remotely on my design projects. I didn't go out much, not even for the short walks I like to take around the neighborhood. Every time I thought about that trail, I felt a weight in my chest, a sense that I wasn't alone out there. I tried researching if other people have experienced anything similar on the Appalachian Trail, but I didn't find anything specific, just generic stories of people getting lost or hearing noises, nothing like what I went through. I thought about going back there with someone, just to prove it wasn't all in my head, but I didn't have the courage. Just the thought of stepping onto that path again made me feel sick. Maybe someday I'll go back, but not now. I need time to process all of this. I told a close friend about what happened, but she also thought it was just stress or the loneliness of the trail messing with me. She said sometimes the mind makes things up when you're alone in nature. I wanted to believe that, but what I heard in that recording didn't feel made up. And the stuff moved around in my backpack? There was no logical explanation. She suggested I try therapy or something to deal with the breakup and this experience. I'm not ruling it out, but right now I just want to keep to myself, not dig into it too much. I still catch myself looking at the shadows in the corners of my house, like a habit, but I try to control it. I don't know if I'll get over this anytime soon. I just know something on that trail wasn't right. I've thought a lot about what it could have been. Was someone following me from a distance, playing with me? But how did they not leave footprints? How did they mess with my backpack without me hearing? And that voice on my phone, how did it get there? I try not to let my thoughts spiral too much because it only makes it worse. Sometimes I think it might be tied to the history of the trail. I've heard there are old stories of weird things happening. I don't usually believe in that stuff, but what I experienced doesn't fit with what I know. I wonder if I did something to attract it, or if it was just bad luck. I don't have answers, and maybe I never will. I just know I don't feel ready to go back into nature anytime soon. My backpack has been stashed in the closet since I got back. I haven't even opened it to take stuff out. It sounds silly, but I don't want to touch it right now. The dirty clothes are still in there along with my sleeping bag. I thought about washing everything and putting it away, but every time I pass by the closet, I put it off. It feels like touching it will bring everything back. My phone at least hasn't recorded anything weird since, but I still avoid using the audio app. I'm trying to get back to my routine, focusing on work, hanging out with friends occasionally. But there are moments when I find myself thinking about the trail, the shadows, that voice. I can't erase it from my memory. Maybe with time it'll get better, but right now it's still fresh. I talked to my boss about taking a few extra days off, just to rest my mind. He was cool about it, said it was fine, so I'm taking advantage of staying home, watching shows, cooking. I try not to think too much about what happened, but it's hard. Sometimes when I'm alone, I feel like someone's watching me, even inside my house. I know it's ridiculous that I'm safe here, but the feeling doesn't go away easily. I'm avoiding isolated places for now, even the parks near my house. I don't know if this will pass or if I'll carry it with me. I just know that trail changed something in me. I'm not as carefree as I used to be. My friend sent me some links to hiking groups so I could share what happened and see if anyone else has gone through it. I joined an online forum, but I haven't posted anything yet. I don't know how to explain it without sounding crazy. For now, I just read other people's stories, but nothing matches mine. I'm thinking about writing anonymously just to vent, not expecting any replies. I tried to convince myself it was just a moment of stress, that my mind was fragile because of the breakup. But deep down, I know it's not just that. The moved stuff, the shadows, the recording, I can't explain it all away as imagination. I'm trying to move on with life, focusing on the small things like my design projects and calls with friends. But there are moments when I catch myself looking out the window as if I expect to see something in the shadows. I know there's nothing here in my neighborhood, but the habit stuck. I haven't told my parents what happened. I don't want to worry them for no reason. Maybe one day I'll tell them when it feels lighter. For now, I keep it between a few people. I don't know how long it'll take to feel normal again. I just know that trail isn't the peaceful place it used to be for me. Something changed, and I don't know if I'll ever be the same person I was before this. Story 3. Hey, I need to tell you about something really weird that happened to me and my buddy Mark back in 2021. My name's David Harper, I'm 45 years old, and I work as a forestry technician in Oregon. Mark Evans and I, who I've known for years, were sent to do a survey of an old logging site near a decommissioned mill way out in the middle of nowhere. The place has been abandoned for decades, ever since a really bad accident happened there ages ago. Our job was pretty straightforward. Map the area, check the conditions. Nothing we hadn't done a million times before. I got our gear ready. We drove out in the work truck and set up camp in a small trailer we bring for these remote gigs. The spot was about 3 hours from the nearest town, just dirt roads and dense forest all around. I remember joking with Mark about how quiet it was. Not even the birds were making much noise. It felt off right from the start, but I figured it was just because we were so isolated. Anyway, we got there late in the afternoon and decided to take it easy until the next day. On our first full day, we got to work, mapping the area with our GPS devices and taking notes on the terrain. The old mill was just a crumbling shell, all rusted iron and rotten wood, left there like a forgotten relic. We had our radios on to stay in touch since the area was huge, but right away I noticed my GPS battery was draining way faster than it should have. I'd fully charged it before. We left, and within 2 hours it was down to 20%. Mark's was the same, and we just looked at each other like, what the hell? We switched to our spares, but those died quick too, which made no sense at all. Then on the radio, we started picking up weird static mixed with low murmurs. You couldn't make it out clearly, just these deep pained sounds like someone groaning or asking for help. We checked the frequency, fiddled with the dials, but it didn't match anything we use. I thought it might be interference from some old equipment left at the mill, but it kept going all day. It was kind of unsettling, but we didn't talk about it much, just kept working. That night, back at the trailer, which was parked a short walk from the mill, we heated up some canned chili on a propane burner, played a bit of cards to unwind, and hit the sack around 10 since we were beat. I was just about to drift off in my sleeping bag when I heard tapping on the side of the trailer. At first it was light, like fingers tapping on metal, very rhythmic. I sat up, listened closely, and it kept going. Maybe every few seconds, tap, tap, tap. I called out to Mark, who was in the bunk on the other side, and he heard it too. We grabbed our flashlights, unzipped the door, and stepped out to check. Nothing there, just the dark woods and a faint breeze rustling the trees. No footprints, no branches that could have hit the trailer. Nothing. We stood there for a few minutes, shining our lights everywhere, but the tapping stopped as soon as we got outside. I barely slept after that, just stayed awake waiting to see if it would start again, but nothing else happened that night. The next morning, I was a bit on edge, but didn't say much to Mark. We had coffee, ate some oatmeal, and got back to work, trying to stay focused. I was checking my gear by the trailer before heading out, pulling stuff from my backpack, when I found something odd. Tucked into a side pocket was a folded piece of paper, all yellowed and worn, like it had been there for ages. I unfolded it, and there were handwritten words in pencil, real messy, saying, "Please help us, don't leave." My stomach turned when I read it because I sure as hell didn't put it there. I showed it to Mark, and he just stared at it, shaking his head. The handwriting wasn't mine or his, and it looked old, like from years ago. I searched the rest of my backpack, but nothing else was out of place, just that paper. We didn't know what to think, so I stuck it in my jacket pocket, figuring I'd deal with it later. We spent that day pushing through the survey, sticking closer together than usual. The battery drain issue kept happening, and those creepy murmurs on the radio came back, same as before. I tried not to let it get to me, but I kept looking over my shoulder, feeling like we weren't alone out there. Mark noticed it too, though. He didn't say much, just kept working with his head down. The woods felt heavier that day, like the air was pressing down on us, even though the weather was clear. We wrapped up a bit early, around 4 p.m., because neither of us wanted to be there after dark. Back at the trailer, I pulled out that paper again, just staring at the words. I asked Mark if he thought someone was messing with us, but he just shrugged, looking uneasy. We both knew there was no one else around, at least not that we could see. That night, I kept my backpack right by me. I didn't want to take any chances. Sure enough, on the second night, the tapping came back. It started around 1 a.m., same rhythm as before, tap, tap, tap on the trailer wall right by my head. I didn't even wait, grabbed my flashlight and woke Mark up. It kept going while we sat there listening, and it didn't seem random, like it had a pattern. We checked outside again, bundled up since it was cold, but once more nothing. No marks on the trailer, no footprints in the dirt, just empty woods. The tapping stopped while we were out there, same as last time, like whatever it was knew we were looking for it. I was starting to get really unsettled, not just annoyed, but actually kind of worried. Mark tried to laugh it off, saying maybe it was a small animal, but his tone wasn't convincing. We went back inside, locked the door tight, and kept the light on for a while. Neither of us got much rest after that. The next day I found another piece of paper. This time it was in my notebook, the one I used to jot down measurements and coordinates for the survey. I was flipping through it mid-morning, and there it was, tucked between 2 pages, same old paper, same messy handwriting. It read, "They won't let us go, get out." My hands shook holding it, because there's no way it could have gotten there on its own. I didn't leave my notebook lying around, and Mark swore he didn't touch it. I showed it to him, and this time he didn't even try to joke about it. We just stood there in the middle of the site, not saying much, just feeling the weight of it. I kept both papers in my jacket after that, didn't want them in my gear. The rest of the day we worked fast, barely talking, just wanting to get through the task list. The murmurs on the radio happened again, louder this time, almost like a voice begging, but too garbled to make out. I turned the damn thing off after that. When we stopped at a small gas station on the way back to town to fuel up a day later, I struck up a convo with the cashier, an older guy who'd lived in the area forever. I didn't mention the papers or the tapping, just casually asked if he knew about the old mill. He nodded, got real serious, and said folks around there don't go near it much. He told me there were stories from way back after the accident about workers who disappeared and were never found. Said some think what happened there left a mark on the land, something bad that's still around. I didn't know what to say, just nodded and thanked him for the info. Mark was outside by the truck, but when I told him later, he stayed quiet, just staring off. We both knew the job wasn't done, but neither of us was eager to go back. That conversation stuck with me, made everything feel heavier. Back at the trailer that night after the gas station stop, I couldn't get what the guy said out of my head. We were supposed to stay 2 more days to finish the survey, but I was already thinking about cutting it short. There was no tapping that night, which was a relief, but I still barely slept, just kept an ear out for anything. Mark admitted he was feeling something weird too, said the place wasn't sitting right with him anymore. We agreed to bust our asses the next day, cover as much ground as possible, and maybe leave a day early if we could. I kept thinking about those workers the cashier mentioned, wondering if the papers had something to do with them. It didn't make logical sense, but nothing there did. I checked my gear again before bed, made sure everything was locked tight. No more papers showed up, thank God, but I still felt watched. It's hard to explain, just this constant sense of something nearby. The next day we worked like crazy, barely stopping for lunch, just scarfing down protein bars on the go. The batteries kept draining as usual, and I didn't even bother turning the radio back on. We stuck close, didn't separate for a second, and kept our eyes on the woods around us. I didn't see anything out of place, no shadows or weird movements, but the feeling wouldn't go away. By the afternoon, we'd covered almost everything we needed to, and Mark suggested we call it, head back to town the next morning. I agreed instantly. I didn't care if the bosses got mad for cutting out early. We returned to the trailer, started packing up non-essentials and double-checked the locks. I put the papers in a plastic baggie, didn't even want to touch them anymore. That night I just wanted dawn to come quick. No tapping, nothing, but sleep still didn't come easy. When morning broke, we loaded up the truck as soon as it got light, not wasting a second. I kept glancing back at the mill site as we drove off, half expecting to see something, but it was just empty woods. The drive back felt longer than it should have, even though we took the same dirt roads. I didn't feel right until we hit the paved streets closer to town, like a weight was starting to lift off me. Mark barely said a word the whole way, just stared out the window, probably thinking the same stuff I was. We reported back at work, handed over the data, but neither of us mentioned the weird stuff to the boss. What were we going to say? That we heard voices and got creepy papers out of nowhere? They'd think we were losing it. I just said the job was almost done and left it at that. But I kept those papers. They're still in a drawer at home. After we got back, I did some digging online about that mill, looking for old news or anything on the accident. I found a few mentions from the 80s, saying a collapse killed some workers, and 2 others went missing afterward. Not a lot of details, just basic reports. Nothing about strange happenings or ghost stories, but what the cashier said lined up with the disappearances. I didn't tell Mark what I found. Seemed like he just wanted to forget the whole thing. I don't blame him, because part of me does too, but I keep thinking about those papers, the tapping, the murmurs on the radio. It's not something you can just brush off. I haven't been back to that area since, and I'm not sure I want to. Work hasn't sent us there again, thankfully, but it's always in the back of my mind. I told a close friend about it a few weeks later, over some beers, at my place. I showed him the papers, explained everything, and he just listened, didn't laugh or anything. He said maybe someone was pranking us, some local kids who knew the stories, but that doesn't hold up. Kids wouldn't be out in the middle of nowhere, and the papers looked way too old to be a joke. He didn't have an answer, and honestly, neither do I. I've been told it was probably just exhaustion, that being in remote places can mess with your head. I keep wondering what was out there with us. Did it have something to do with those missing workers? I don't know. Mark and I made it back fine, no injuries, but it doesn't feel like the end of it in my mind. Maybe it never will be. I'm just taking it day by day, doing my job, living my life. But that place, those days are still with me. I don't know what was trying to reach us, or if it was even real. I just hope I never have to find out.